My name's Langdown and I teach fashion design, and I've been teaching at the university for 23 years. My research started in about 2009 when I realised that I was actually consuming too much stuff. 25 years in total of teaching fashion design in HE had meant I'd accumulated absolutely loads of garments, and I recognised that this was probably a common feeling amongst a lot of people who love fashion. So I started to think about how could this affect my practice and what could I do to introduce this idea to fashion students. Part of my research has led me to work with all sorts of interesting organisations outside the university, and I must say that my approach when I contact them is purely speculative. I approach them, I say this is what I'm interested in, can we come and talk? And it's through discussions that potential projects are sort of born, if you like. And then my approach is to bring that idea back to the university, think about how could I frame this so that it would be appealing to students, and also, you know, importantly, what could I contribute? Because I've found over the years that working with students as partners has been the most successful way of working, that a kind of open model in the way businesses are almost having to move to an open model, to be open to working with other people, breaking down boundaries, hierarchies, if you like, traditional hierarchies are being broken down. So I bring these topics and ideas back to the university, and then I advertise them. So, for example, a couple of years ago I was doing some research into wool and wool production in North Yorkshire, and the Yorkshire Agricultural Society invited me to design a stand in the Science into Practice Pavilion at the Great Yorkshire Show. So I wrote a brief around this and I advertised it to students, and 3 students showed interest, and that was very, very successful. We had a lot of interesting experiences, and I think together we learned quite a lot about the Yorkshire wool industry and had the opportunity to do a live project. Now, as my work moves into looking at slow fashion, the slow design movement, I am working with a lady in Harrogate who has a vintage clothing store. I'm working with a graphics student through Unit X, a 3rd year graphics student, and together we're going to design a publication including fashion editorial that could be a way of fostering an interest in a slow approach to fashion. When you embark on a project that you feel quite passionate about, and particularly something like sustainability, it's not something that you particularly want to keep to yourself. It's been observed that the British are quite slow in sharing their ideas, and I come back to this idea of looking at open models of sharing information. And with the Slow Fashion Project, from the very beginning, I thought this is an ideal project to invite a student or students to join in, that it's authentic, it's real. Working with students as partners on a live project is different to a usual situation, a usual teaching model of the project brief. I think what's different is that usually a member of staff holds up the project brief as some sort of hoop that the students have to jump through, and it can feel quite fake, I suppose, or contrived. Whereas when you're working together and working towards a common goal, which is, pleasing the external partner or providing them with a service or a product that they'll be pleased with at the end, when you work in that way, there is a feeling of collaboration, equality. It does feel very different, and it feels much easier as a teaching professional. I find this an absolutely wonderful way of working so that we can work with people we've taught and they can teach us. When you're working on a collaborative project with students and perhaps with an external partner as well, you don't have so much control over the learning outcomes. I think some people call it the unstable curriculum. And what I find I'm having to do is mediate between the students and the external partners, and also try and hold what I'm expecting to get out of the project as well. So in a sense, I'm having to balance everybody's expectations from the project and also be very open to the unexpected. It's quite hard to have a preconceived idea of what the outcome will be when you're dealing with all these unexpected issues and variables of different people having different inputs. So I think, once again, it's about being open-minded. That's probably the most important way to be.
You can find more films and podcasts on our website. Go to celt.mmu.ac.uk/good practice. Thanks for watching.